What do I keep saying? I'm sure 49er fans are extremely annoyed with me by saying is, guys get hurt. Guys get hurt. You can't just plug these guys in and say they're going to be better than the people that the 49ers discarded. Now, maybe the guys the 49ers discarded are going to get hurt too, but it's always better to have depth, and 49ers have some real issues with depth, especially on defense. Just your first thoughts, what struck you as also having Kyle Shanahan talk first time after they did all the deals, Warner, Purdy, Kittle, and then we had Kittle and Warner both talked about the OTA and about their new deals. What was the first thing that hit you?
Well, the first thing that hit me and what I wrote about was Christian McCaffrey, who I remember in 2023. So the first off season after they traded for him, he had a really good spring and he was running extremely hard for a May practices and someone of his stature. And that always struck me. He really kind of stood out in those OTA practices in 23. And then, of course, he went on to have, one of the most remarkable offensive seasons for a 49ers player during that season. The 24 off season for him was, it didn't really ever happen. There was a contract dispute back in in the spring. It got the 2-year extension that I think was ratified in June.
Yeah, right before minicamp.
Right before the minicamp. So he did show up at the minicamp. I don't remember him practicing in any of the OTAs. And then, of course, when training camp rolled around, he started having those Achilles issues. So I thought yesterday he looked like his 23 self. We didn't see a lot of him on the field, but when he was out there, there was a burst there. There was speed. He looked like he was raring and ready to go, which is obviously a huge deal, considering what this team is with and without him. And they're going to be without Brandon Ayuk probably for the start of the season. So you need your weaponry to be firing on all cylinders. So that's what stood out to me. What did you see in this? Well,
I'm going to say two things. One of them related to McCaffrey. Obviously, he looked fantastic, and yeah, I blinked. I go, was this 2023 again? I guess he practiced once or twice in training camp last year. I don't really remember it. Maybe just he was out there and wasn't doing much, and then he was shut down very quickly. By telling us that he was going to be just fine in the regular season, and he was not. But also, as he was sprinting through a couple plays, you saw number 98, the first round pick, Michael Williams. Now that no helmets, no pads, so whatever. But you just saw him chasing him down, and you kind of had some better. Hey, don't actually tackle him. I don't know what he's going to be like as a pass rusher. We know there were some not great stats for him, but I just think physically. The will to chase, that's one thing I've always been impressed about by Bosa is his chase down. Like he isn't just trying to get the quarterback. If they're running the other way, Nick Bosa is trying to get the guy, and he often does. And I think Michael Williams has that, and I think that's impressing. Warner mentioned that, and I think that'll show up big time when they are wearing pads and helmets. I just think that was something like I think Aldon Smith used to do that too. Like you just notice it sometimes when guys that are that physical presence just are on the field and you're seeing, I go, wait a minute, 98 is just running past people here. So that's not the number one thing you want out of defensive end. Clearly, they want to hold the edge. They want to rush the passer, but I thought that was impressive. It involved chasing down McCaffrey on the other side. The other one, get some people wrangled up here. No Trent Williams. That was the first person I was looking for. I don't know why he wasn't there. It wasn't injury related. I asked Shanahan about it just in an oblique way without trying to, feed anything like, has he been here? And he has, but he hasn't been recently. That is a person that has some leverage. We saw Spencer Burford lining up a left tackle. Trent Williams has no guaranteed money next season. The negotiation last year, which again, they didn't love, but was to guarantee this year. Well, he's got no guarantee next year. They got Spencer Burford or what if it's not Trent Williams. I'm not saying it's about money. I'm saying the 49ers should have been prepared for this when they did not re-sign Jalen Moore. If they had re-signed Jalen Moore, different equation. They did not. And I think Trent Williams might be looking at the money that Jalen Moore got and go, okay, wait a minute. He's guaranteed what now into the future? And I'm guaranteed nothing after this season. Just set up like the way Shanahan, I just like to asked the question to read between the lines, and Shanahan said he does expect him back. I think they're going to have to accommodate Trent in some way, whether it's the full guarantee of next year's, sliding some money next year, have it triggered in some way. Trent Williams is the guy, their left tackle. Like, there was nobody else. And maybe he got hurt last year. He's older. He might get hurt again. It's better than to have that player playing left tackle for whatever you can get out of him this season, and maybe next season, than have Spencer Burford or I don't know who. If it's not Spencer Burford, I don't know who the left tackle is. If he gets hurt, it might be Dominic Puni, and that's a right guard in his second season. So that struck me. Again, I don't want to overread this, but I was looking for that. I really was like, where's 71? No 71. Interesting. And the video of him working out that he put out right before was interesting. That's not going to be about retirement, I don't think. So what do you think about that part there, Barrows?
Well, there were definitely a few positions where they were already low. Tackle was one of them. As you pointed out, it was Spencer Burford with the first group at left tackle. There was another practice going on the far field where there were other offensive players lining up. So it wasn't the full gamut. I would, if I had to guess right now, I would say that Andre Dillard, one of these veterans that they brought in, is going to end up being the swing tackle. He just has experience. He's had some good seasons. He hasn't been consistent. And, oh, by the way, he wasn't on the practice field yesterday either. So we don't know what's wrong with him. Nicholas Petit Frere, I call him Nicholas' little brother. He was out there, and he was on the far field playing left tackle. So he's a possibility as well. Austin Pleasance is another possibility. I think that they would exhaust those guys before getting to Dominic Puni. But you're right. I mean, there's just no real – you could see their vision at lots of other positions. The line of succession, if you will, at other positions. It's hard to figure that out at left tackle. And then the other positions that they were light, safety, they were extremely light. Jair Brown had ankle surgery in the offseason. He won't be back until training camp. George Odom wasn't on the field for some reason. Malik Mustafa, we already know about, has the ACL. So you had a pair of newcomers, Jason Pinnock and Richie Grant. Pinnock, to me, I want to get to the bottom of this at some point. Pinnock was a draft pick by Robert Saleh's Jets 4 years ago. And despite the fact that the Jets had all sorts of safety issues, he got waived the next year. He got picked up by the Giants, and he played 3 seasons with the Giants, and then played pretty well. It's certainly not a top safety, but pretty well, and then was signed by the 49ers and Robert Saleh in the offseason. So we had to figure out why it was that the Jets ditched this guy, and then Saleh brought him back in the offseason. So your starting safeties would be Richie Grant and Jason Pinnock. And then behind them, I don't know. I mean, I forgot to mention that Marquise Siegel wasn't practicing either. He's the 5th round pick who's got a fairly decent shot, I think, at winning a prominent role on that defense. I think he's dealing with a sports hernia, and, he might be another guy who's back for training camp only.
What do I keep saying? I'm sure 49er fans who love the 49ers are extremely annoyed with me by saying is, guys get hurt. Guys get hurt. Guys get hurt. You can't just plug these guys in and say they're going to be better than the people that the 49ers discarded. Now, maybe the guys the 49ers discarded are going to get hurt too, but it's always better to have depth, and 49ers have some real issues with depth, especially on defense. And that defensive tackle at, linebacker. If Nick Martin isn't ready to go, I thought Nick Martin looked fine, but he didn't look like this, blaze of glory. We'll see. There's some issues, but not to get all negative about it, but I will continue to mention this. I will continue to say that they could have had more depth than they do, and they chose not to save money. Fine. But there was energy there. You mentioned McCaffrey. Juwan Jennings looks fantastic.
Yeah.
Now, some of that might be because they're going against the safeties they're going against, but he was wide. It was open a lot, and Purdy was throwing it to him, and he looked like wide receiver 1. Now, You know, we know Ayuk has the contract whenever, but man, if Ayuk takes a while to come back or he doesn't come back great, I think Jennings might be their number one receiver, or at least certainly has a chemistry with Purdy. We know Ayuk did before, last season, but maybe, we'll see. Or maybe they both have chemistry. I think, well, who else? There was some other, you just felt rhythm. You felt Purdy was in a good rhythm. You felt like this is a team that does have a mindset that, and Shanahan talked about it at the end of their last team meeting last season, said, expect you guys, everyone to show up for the first day of phase one, which was back in April. And they did. Now, Trent Williams is not showing up now. We'll see what that means. But as Kittle said, we got 99% reporting for this, and I think the one he was thinking was Trent Williams. So that made me think more. Like, he's really not saying that Trent Williams is. That's interesting. But past that, Bosa was there. All these guys were there. Like, I do think they were prepared mentally that there was going to be a lot of changes. I don't think as many as that happened, but okay, there's going to be changes. This is going to be a different kind of locker room. Let's show the new guys what our standards are. Let's show the new guys that we care, that we are pissed off about 6-11. That's not who we are. Let's show that in April, May, and June. And I think that was communicated. And I think Shanahan, he was pretty upbeat there, Barrows. Like, we've seen Kyle in many different moods. He was in a really. I talked to him a little bit afterwards too, and he was talking about going to the Warriors game and etc. That the Warriors played better when he was there than they did when Purdy was there. So Purdy clearly is a jinx for the Warriors, is what he was telling me. But that was casual conversation. I'm not right about that. But he was in a good mood. And I just think he likes the feeling right now. I think they got past all the problems of the offseason. They've dealt with it. They've kind of emotionally handle it, and now, okay, let's come at this with a good mood. They're not going to be as veteran, they're not going to be as deep, but there's a good mood, and that's the most important thing for right now.
Yeah, he's got perfect attendance, or he had it on day one back in April, and that has to please him. I was my mind went back to the very first game I ever covered was the infamous Trey Junkin game, the playoff game between the New York Jets. The New York Giants, Jeremy Shockey, New York Giants, and the TO-led 49ers. And I was on the sideline. Remember, we had to go down early in order to get to the locker room. And I was on the sideline, and TO came off the field with like a gaggle of New York Giants defenders, and I went down. They took me to the ground because their scrap went to the sideline. I hadn't been involved in any incident like that, but I almost was yesterday, really early in the practice. Brock Purdy goes deep to Juwan Jennings, not necessarily known as a go route runner, but this was a sideline route, right straight down the sideline. I think Renardo Green was covering him, and Jennings made a fantastic over-the-shoulder catch. Was the sort of the highlight of the practice, and Renardo Green's momentum took him nearly into Matt Barrows. Wow. Luckily, my cat-like quickness allowed me to jump out of the way. But for a first OTA where they were only doing really 7-on-7 stuff. So 7-on-7 means no offensive line, no defensive line. So it's going to favor the quarterback and the wide receivers because there's no pressure. But there were lots of highlights. I mean, it was a snappy practice, and as you noted, Jennings stood out. I thought Ricky Pearsall stood out for not being there.
Not being there, yep.
And so Jacob Cowings was basically in that role instead of Pearsall, and those guys have become close. Pearsall, Cowings, Purdy are a sort of triumvirate in the offseason. They're all Arizona guys. And the other guy who stood out to me, and probably the only rookie that really had a prominent practice, was Jordan Watkins, the fourth rounder from Ole Miss. And we have to preface by saying, this is the type of practice that's tailor-made for him. He's got speed. He's super smooth. And if you're talking 7-on-7, you would expect him to excel. But he is a rookie, and you don't always see that. I don't remember seeing that from uh,
AJ Jenkins.
AJ Jenkins, for example.
Yeah.
But he was the second most prolific receiver in this session. And I think that all the things that the 49ers like about him, speed, just there's an evenness to him. He actually seemed a little bit bigger than I thought he was
Yep.
going to be too. Anyway, so it was I don't want to overblow it, but it was a good first practice for Jordan Watkins.